The door slammed shut behind me as I stood there in the pouring rain, my heart pounding from the argument that had just erupted inside the house. But what happened next when Malik turned and walked away without looking back shattered everything I thought I knew about love and acceptance. I never planned for any of this. My name is Ezekiel, but everyone calls me Zeke, and at 28 I had built what looked like a perfect life in Chicago. By day I worked as a senior marketing coordinator at a downtown firm, wearing crisp shirts and smiling through client meetings. By night, I went home to an empty apartment because the man I loved could not stay. Malik had been my secret for 2 years, and on that stormy Tuesday evening, everything finally broke. It started, innocently enough, 2 years earlier at a crowded coffee shop near Millennium Park. I was rushing for a latte before a big presentation when I bumped into him, literally spilling his iced Americano across his navy sweater. He laughed instead of getting angry, a deep, warm sound that cut through the morning noise. "No worries, man, happens to the best of us," he said, wiping the stain with a napkin. Malik was 31, a high school history teacher with kind brown eyes and a quiet confidence that made my chest tighten. We exchanged numbers to replace the coffee, and somehow that single text turned into daily messages, late-night talks, and eventually stolen weekends where we could be ourselves. At first it felt like freedom. We drove to the Indiana dunes on Sundays, hiked trails where no one knew us, and sat on the beach sharing dreams. Malik wanted to write a book about forgotten civil rights stories. I wanted to start my own agency one day. We talked about everything except the one thing that mattered most: my family back in small-town Ohio. My parents still sent me church bulletins every month and asked when I would bring home a nice girl. My older brother ran the family hardware store and had 3 kids already. Coming out was never an option. It was a death sentence for the life they had planned for me. So I hid. I told Malik it was temporary, that I just needed time. He always nodded, but I saw the shadow in his eyes each time I canceled a dinner or introduced him as my buddy from work. That shadow grew over the months. Last Christmas, I flew home alone while Malik spent the holiday with his own open-minded family in California. When I returned, he met me at the airport with flowers and a gentle question. "Zeke, when are we going to stop pretending?" I kissed him right there in the terminal and promised soon. But soon never came. Tonight, everything collided. My mother had called earlier, her voice tight with worry. "Your cousin saw you at that pride parade last month. She says you were holding hands with someone." "Zeke, tell me it's not true." I froze. I had gone with Malik only for 10 minutes, just to support a colleague. One photo, one moment of weakness, and now the lie was cracking. I told my mother it was nothing, a mistake. She cried and hung up. An hour later, my father's truck pulled into my building's lot. He never visited unannounced. The fight was short and brutal. He stood in my living room, fists clenched, demanding names, dates, proof. I denied everything until the words tasted like ash. Malik had been waiting in the bedroom, listening through the door. When my father finally left, I opened the door expecting comfort. Instead, Malik stood there, coat on, eyes red. "I can't do this anymore, Zeke. I love you, but I won't be your secret forever. If you can't tell them the truth, then I have to go." He walked past me into the rain, and I did not chase him. Not yet. I sank onto the wet steps, watching his taillights disappear. The silence that followed felt heavier than any shout. For the first time, I realized hiding had cost me more than I could afford. The next morning, my phone would not stop buzzing. My brother texted first. Dad called. "What the hell is going on?" Then my mother with a long voice note begging me to come home for the weekend to talk. I stared at the messages until the screen blurred. Malik had not replied to my dozen apologies. I called in sick to work and drove aimlessly through the city, replaying every moment we had shared. The laughter, the quiet nights, the way he looked at me like I was worth fighting for. By afternoon, I found myself at the coffee shop where we met. The same barista recognized me and asked if everything was okay. I almost laughed. Nothing was okay. My carefully built wall was crumbling, and the man on the other side had finally walked away. I ordered 2 drinks, one for me and one for the empty seat across from me. As the rain started again, I whispered to no one, "I'm sorry, Malik. I'm so damn sorry." That was only the beginning. 3 days later, I sat on a plane to Ohio, clutching the armrest as the Midwest fields rolled beneath us. My mother had insisted I come home for the annual family reunion. "We need to talk as a family, Ezekiel." Her voice had been calm, too calm. I knew what that meant. Intervention. Malik still had not answered my calls. I left voicemails at midnight and texts that grew longer and more desperate. Each silence carved deeper into my chest. On the flight, I scrolled through old photos we had taken on our phones, the ones I kept hidden in a password-protected album. There we were laughing at a street fair, his arm around my shoulders. In another, we stood on Navy Pier watching fireworks, his head resting against mine. Those pictures felt like evidence, now proof of a crime I had committed against my own happiness. The family farm looked exactly the same: white clapboard house, red barn, and the big oak where I had carved my initials as a kid. My brother greeted me at the door with a tight hug that felt more like a warning. "Dad's inside. Try not to make this worse." Inside, the kitchen smelled of pot roast and tension. My father sat at the head of the table, Bible open like a shield. My mother fluttered around, pouring iced tea, avoiding my eyes. Dinner was quiet at first until my cousin Sarah cleared her throat. "So Zeke, who was the guy at the parade?" The question landed like a stone in still water. I set my fork down carefully. "It was just a friend." My father snorted. "Friends don't hold hands, son. Not like that." The room went still. My mother started crying softly. I felt the old familiar shame rise hot in my throat, but this time something else rose with it: anger. I stood up. "His name is Malik. He's a teacher. And yes, I love him." The words hung in the air, heavier than the humidity outside. My brother slammed his glass down. "You're throwing your life away. What about the family name? What about mom and dad?" My father simply stared at me, the disappointment in his eyes cutting deeper than any shout. I left the table and walked out to the barn where I had hidden as a teenager whenever the world felt too big. The smell of hay and old wood brought back memories of praying to be normal, of promising God I would change. None of it had worked. My phone buzzed. A text from Malik at last. "I need space, Zeke. This hurts too much." That night, I lay in my childhood bed staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I had stuck on the ceiling at age 12. I replayed the dinner 100 times. The shock on their faces, the anger, the tears. But beneath it all, I saw something new in my own reflection in the mirror: a man who was tired of lying. The next morning, my mother knocked softly. She sat on the edge of the bed and took my hand. "We love you, Ezekiel. We just don't understand. Maybe if you stopped seeing him." Her voice trailed off. I pulled away gently. "Mom, I can't stop being who I am." She left without another word, and I knew the crack in our family had become a chasm. Back in Chicago, the silence from Malik stretched into a week. I threw myself into work, staying late, editing campaigns that blurred together. One evening, my coworker Lena found me in the break room, staring at my cold coffee. She had always been kind, the only person at the office who seemed to suspect. "You look like hell, Zeke. Want to talk?" I almost told her everything, but the habit of hiding won again. I smiled and said I was fine. That weekend, I drove to the dunes alone. The beach was nearly empty under gray skies. I sat on the same log where Malik and I had once watched the sunset and whispered the words I should have said months ago. "I choose you. I'm ready." The wind carried them away unanswered. When I returned to my apartment, there was a note slipped under the door in Malik's handwriting. "I'm proud of you for telling them. But I can't wait anymore. I love you enough to let you go." My knees gave out right there in the hallway. He had left. Not because of my family, but because I had made him feel invisible for too long. The pain was physical, a hollow ache that followed me everywhere. I called in sick again and spent days replaying every choice, every hesitation. Friends texted asking if I was okay. I ignored them all except one. My best friend from college, Ryan, had always been the loyal one, the guy who never judged. I finally met him for a beer and spilled everything. He listened quietly, then said, "Zeke, you have to fight for him. Go to California. Tell him you're done hiding." His words lit a small spark. For the first time, I felt the possibility of a different future, one where I did not have to choose between love and family. But that future still felt miles away, and Malik's note burned in my pocket like a warning. 2 weeks after Malik left, I booked a ticket to Los Angeles. The decision came after another sleepless night, staring at the note he had written. I could not let it end like this. Ryan drove me to the airport and hugged me hard. "Don't come back without him." The flight felt endless. I rehearsed what I would say 1,000 times. I would tell him I had come out to my entire family, that I had started therapy, that I was ready to post our pictures, to change my relationship status, to do whatever it took. When the plane touched down, the California sun felt like a promise. I rented a car and drove straight to the high school where Malik taught. He was walking out of the building when I parked. The moment he saw me, he stopped mid-step, backpack slipping from his shoulder. I stepped out, heart hammering. Malik, please just listen. He looked thinner, tired, but still the same man I had fallen for. We walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench under palm trees. I poured out everything: the family dinner, the shame, the decision to stop hiding. Tears ran down my face, and he listened without interrupting. When I finished, he took my hand, the first touch in weeks. Zeke, I'm proud of you. Really. But I need time. Watching you choose them over us every single day broke something in me. His voice cracked. I love you, but I can't be the secret anymore. Not even for you. We spent the afternoon walking the beach, talking about everything except us. He told me about his students, the book he was writing, the life he was trying to build without me. I told him about the therapy sessions I had started and the long talk I had with my mother on the phone the night before. She had said, "We're trying, Ezekiel. It's just hard." It was not forgiveness, but it was a crack of light. As the sun set, Malik turned to me. Stay a few days. Let's see if we can remember how to be us without the fear. I nodded, relief flooding through me. Those 3 days were a fragile miracle. We cooked dinner in his small apartment, watched old movies, and made love with the kind of tenderness that comes after almost losing someone. For the first time, I felt seen completely. On the last morning, I woke to find him already dressed. I have to go to work, but I'll be back by 6. We'll talk more tonight. He kissed me softly and left. I spent the day exploring his neighborhood, imagining a life here where no one knew my family's expectations. At 5:30, my phone rang. It was Ryan. Zeke, I'm so sorry. Your cousin posted something on Facebook. It's gone viral in your hometown. She found an old photo of you and Malik from the parade and tagged your whole family. Everyone knows now. My stomach dropped. I opened the app, and there was a picture of us holding hands with the caption, "Pray for my cousin Ezekiel. He needs Jesus." Comments flooded in from aunts, uncles, church friends, some cruel, some confused. My father had already commented, "This ends now." I called Malik in a panic. He answered on the second ring, voice calm. I saw it. My mom called me from California. She saw the post too somehow. He paused. Zeke, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Your family is never going to accept this. And I can't watch you get torn apart. That night when he came home, the air between us had changed. We sat on the couch, and he said the words I had feared most. I think you should go back to Chicago. Figure out your family first. I love you too much to be the reason you lose them. I begged him to reconsider, but he only shook his head, eyes wet. This is me letting you go so you can become the man you need to be. I flew home the next morning feeling like I had lost everything twice. The betrayal was not his, it was the world's, the way one photo could unravel 2 lives. Back in Chicago, the fallout was immediate. My father called at midnight, his voice shaking with rage. You have embarrassed this family. Your mother can't even leave the house. My brother sent a text that simply read, "Don't come home for Christmas." The office became a minefield. Someone had seen the Facebook post, and whispers followed me in the hallways. Lena pulled me aside one afternoon. I'm here if you need to talk. I've been there. Her quiet support was the only light in the darkness. I threw myself into work editing campaigns until my eyes burned. At night, I lay awake replaying the beach conversation with Malik. His decision to step away had been an act of love, but it felt like abandonment. I texted him every few days, short messages, just to let him know I was still fighting. He replied once, "I'm proud of you, Zeke. Keep going." 3 weeks after the post, my mother called. Your father had a heart scare last night. The doctor says stress. He won't say it, but I think it's because of everything. The guilt crashed over me like a wave. I booked the next flight home. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and regret. My father lay pale against the white sheets. When he saw me, he turned his head away. My mother stepped out to give us space. I sat beside the bed and spoke the truth I had practiced on the plane. Dad, I'm gay. I've always been gay. And I'm in love with a good man. I can't change that. But I'm still your son. He was silent for a long time, then whispered, I don't know how to be your father anymore. I left the room numb. My brother met me in the hallway. You happy now? You almost killed him. The accusation stung, but I saw the fear behind his anger. That night, I stayed at the farm in my old room and cried for the boy I used to be, the one who believed he could be fixed. The next morning, my mother made pancakes like nothing had changed. We ate in silence until she said, I looked up some things online. About parents like us. There's a support group in Columbus. Maybe we could go together sometime. It was the first olive branch, and I grabbed it with both hands. Back in Chicago, I started attending a local LGBTQ support group. The stories I heard there mirrored my own fathers who stopped speaking to sons' mothers who cried for years. Slowly, I began to breathe again. I even posted my first public photo with Malik, the one from the dunes. The likes and comments from strangers felt like armor. Then came the turning point I never saw coming. Ryan called late one night, voice urgent. "Zeke, you need to see this." Malik's sister posted something. I opened the link. It was a GoFundMe for Malik's mother who had been diagnosed with cancer. The update mentioned, "My brother is struggling with personal issues on top of this. Please keep him in your prayers." Attached was a photo of Malik looking exhausted beside his mother's hospital bed. I booked a flight without thinking. Los Angeles looked different this time, gray and heavy with rain that matched my mood. I went straight to the hospital Malik's mother had been moved to. I found him in the waiting room, head in his hands. When he looked up, the exhaustion in his eyes broke me. "Zeke, what are you doing here?" I saw the post. "I'm so sorry about your mom." He stood and pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than either of us expected. We sat together for hours talking about everything: the cancer, the family, the Facebook post that had started the avalanche. He told me how his mother had asked about me, how she had said, "That boy made you smile, Malik. Don't lose that." That night we stayed at his apartment again. No promises, just presence. I held him while he cried about the fear of losing his mother. In the morning I made coffee and said the words I had carried across the country. "I'm done hiding." I told my family everything. I posted us online. "I'm going to therapy. I want a life with you no matter what it costs." He looked at me for a long time, then nodded. "Okay, let's try again. But slow. My mom needs me right now, and I need to know you're sure." The next 2 weeks were a blur of hospital visits and quiet nights. Malik's mother started responding to treatment, and her smile, when she met me for the first time, felt like grace. "You're the one who makes my son happy," she whispered. "Don't let go." But back in Ohio, the storm was not over. My father had recovered enough to call me. "Son, I've been thinking. Your mother showed me some articles. I'm not saying I understand, but I don't want to lose you." It was not acceptance, but it was a beginning. I flew home for one weekend and sat with them on the porch talking until the sun went down. My brother even shook my hand before I left. When I returned to California, Malik met me at the airport with flowers. "My mom's coming home next week." And I told my principal about us. No more hiding at work either. We drove to the beach where it had all started to feel different this time. 6 months later, we stood together in a small park in Chicago, watching the first snow fall. Malik's mother was in remission. My parents had started attending PFLAG meetings. The world had not magically fixed itself, but we had stopped waiting for permission to be happy. That evening, I proposed with a simple silver band under the same streetlight where we had shared our first real kiss. Malik said yes through tears and laughter. We called our families right there on speakerphone, and for the first time, both sides cheered. Looking back at the journey, the misunderstandings, the betrayals, the nights I thought I had lost him forever, I realized something profound. Love does not erase prejudice, but it gives us the courage to walk through it anyway. Malik taught me that hiding was not protection, it was slow poison. I taught him that sometimes the people who love us hardest need time to catch up. We still face stares and awkward questions. My father still struggles with certain words. But every morning I wake up next to the man I almost lost, and I know the fight was worth it. True or false? Family expectations should always come before personal happiness?